This is episode 17. You can't heal what you keep hiding. Most men already know that there's a problem. That's not the issue. Here's the issue. They keep protecting the same thing that's destroying them. Sounds insane. But they protect the drinking, the porn. They protect the isolation, the anger, the constant busyness, the emotional shutdown, the pretending, the scrolling, the need to always look strong. Brother, you can't heal what you keep hiding. And I know that sounds direct, but at some point, every man has to stop negotiating with the thing quietly stealing his peace. And if you've been here, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because most coping mechanisms, they start as survival, right? That's important to understand. Nobody wakes up one day and says, I want to slowly disconnect from myself. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to destroy my marriage. Nobody decides that I want to numb out every night or that I want to feel spiritually dead. No. Something happened. Pain happened. Pressure happened. Fear happened. Disappointment, rejection, grief. These things happen. It's called life. And somewhere along the way, you found something that helped you survive it. That I know. That's what happened to me. And I think what happens is we always believe it's just going to be temporary. And maybe, it doesn't really matter what it is. It could be work. Temporarily sink yourself into your work, right? It can be destructive, like addictions to alcohol or substances or pornography. Maybe it's isolation. That's a joke that I always say to myself. I just need, the people I love and a beach somewhere, 10 on the beach. But it's not really a joke, right? Isolation. Maybe it's achievement. Maybe it's control. How many control guys do you know that, have to have their hand on every detail? Maybe it's just some form of constant distraction in all of these. But at first, it probably helped. That's the uncomfortable truth. And I don't want to beat around the bush. We start doing these things because they help us in the situation that we're in. It helped you cope, helped you numb, helped you escape, helped you avoid, helped you feel in control. But eventually, the thing that helped you survive starts becoming the thing that's keeping you stuck. And that's when survival quietly becomes identity. Now, instead of saying this is something I struggle with, you start saying other words. You start owning it. You start saying this is just who I am. And that festers into your subconscious. I'm going to tell you right now, no. Brother, that is not who you are. That is what you adapted to. We've talked about being trained. That is what you learned. That is what you started depending on instead of facing the deeper wound, the deeper problem, the deeper situation underneath it, the thing you didn't want to face. And this is where dudes get trapped. Because eventually they stop defending themselves from other people and start defending the pattern itself, right? You start fighting for your own limitations. They protect it, explain it, minimize it, hide it, rationalize it. And you hear these phrases go off in your head and they sound reasonable. And so you listen to them. Everybody does it. It's not that bad. I can stop whenever I want. I'm just stressed. I've had a hard life. Or I deserve this. This is how I relax. Meanwhile, their peace disappears, their marriage weakens, their connection with God fades, their nervous system stays exhausted, and they slowly drift further away from the man that they know they're meant to be. Not all at once. This is quiet. This happens quietly, and that's drift, man. That's how drift works. You just you decide by slide. You don't even make conscious decisions anymore. You just slide into them. The dangerous part is most men don't actually want freedom yet. They just want relief. Relief without surrender. Relief without honesty. Relief without change. Relief without facing the thing underneath the pattern. But healing doesn't begin when a man feels ready. Healing begins the moment a man stops protecting the lie. That's the moment things start changing. You keep hearing me say, when you start dragging it out into the light of day. And this isn't about perfection, man. This isn't about you have to get it right the first time or else. This is just truth. Because the strange thing about hiding is the longer a man hides something, the more power it gains over him. Not because the thing itself is unbeatable. That's crap. But because secrecy feeds it. Shame survives in darkness. That's why men isolate, because isolation protects the image. But isolation also protects the problem. And eventually a man becomes trapped between who he pretends to be and who he knows he actually is. That tension exhausts guys. It's exhausted me. I think that's why so many men secretly feel tired all the time now. Not because life is so freaking hard, but because pretending is just exhausting. Trying to look okay. It's one of the worst phrases that we hear every day in our language. I'm okay. Trying to look okay, trying to look strong, trying to look successful, trying to convince everybody I'm fine. Dude, listen, God can't heal the version of you keep performing. He heals the man who finally tells the truth. And I think this is why Jesus asked so many direct questions, questions that forced honesty, questions that exposed what people were hiding underneath the surface. Do you want to be healed? That question sounds simple, but it's deeper than most people realize, because some men want healing until healing requires surrender, until healing requires honesty, until healing requires giving up the coping mechanism, until healing requires facing the grief. These things are hard to do, man. Facing the fear, facing the loneliness, facing the anger, facing the wound underneath the pattern. And that's where men pull back. Because if the coping mechanism disappears, now they got to look at themselves. But listen, brother, that's also where freedom begins. Not when you finally become perfect, just when you stop hiding. And honestly, one of the biggest things I've seen talking with men is this. The moment a man finally tells the truth, his life usually starts changing faster than he expected. Not because the problem instantly disappears, but because truth breaks isolation. Truth breaks secrecy. Truth breaks this myth of performance. Now another man can actually help him. Now perspective can enter. Now alignment can begin. Now God has something honest to work with. And that's why brotherhood matters so much. Not this fake masculinity crap, not ego, not performance. Real men willing to tell the truth and call each other higher. Because the people around you shape you. If your environment constantly reinforces things like distractions, excuses, emotional immaturity, avoidance, self-obsession, survival thinking, eventually that becomes your normal too. And that's why every man needs people around him who challenge him lovingly, who remind him, you were made for more than this. Even Jesus lived this way. Crowds, 12, and then the three closest. Why? Because proximity matters. The voices around you matter. The conversations around you matter. You're going to hear me keep saying this. A man becomes the emotional average of the environments he lives inside. And most men today are surrounded by noise instead of truth. Brother, you don't need another performance strategy. You need honesty. You need truth. You need alignment. You need people who help you stop drifting before another 5 years disappear, before another day disappears, before another hour goes by. And maybe that starts with one simple question. Think about this today. What am I still protecting that is quietly destroying my peace? And sit with it honestly. See it for what it is. Because the thing you refuse to face usually becomes the thing controlling your life. Scripture says, whoever conceals their sins does not prosper, but the one who confesses and renounces them finds mercy. Again, it's from the Bible. Not shame, mercy. Not guilt, mercy. Brother, you're not too far gone. But you do have to stop hiding, because that's where the healing begins. So if somewhere in this episode you realize you're tired of carrying this silently, head over to resurrectionkings.com. The free resources are there. The podcast, you know where to find it already. The Real Fight Field Guide, the Severin app. And if you're ready for real conversations around rebuilding your life honestly, the coaching path is there too. Because the strongest thing a man can do is stop pretending that he's fine. And we're just getting started.